Bruchim Habayim and Erev Tov from Jerusalem. I'm Matt Berkowitz, the president of Schechter Institutes, Inc., and it's a delight to have you with us this evening from Jerusalem. Here I am with Rivka Greenfeld, our new Susan and Scott Shea TALI Director General, and it is a great treat to be here together. I want to thank you all for joining us and for being a part of this series, Spotlight on Schechter, in which we're interviewing each of the heads of the Amutot, our various branches that comprise the Schechter Institutes. Last time we gathered together in this space, we had a wonderful interview with Rabbi Chaya Rowan Baker, and today I am sure will be just as engaging, just as informative, as we hear from Rivka about her vision of where it is that she wants to take TALI. Rivka Greenfeld, as I said, is the new Susan and Scott Shea TALI Director General. She was born in Ottawa, Canada, for all of you Canadians. She made Aliyah as a young child with her family to the coastal city of Netanya. With a BA in Land of Israel Studies and Comparative Literature from Bar-Ilan University, and also a bachelor's degree in education, Rivka discovered a love of teaching and education after she began teaching in her children's school in Kfar Adumim, where she and her family live. Rivka taught for 13 years in the Israeli system before moving into educational leadership roles. She completed an MA at the Schechter Institute of Jewish Studies, which opened for her an entirely new world. From 2020 to 2023, Rivka was honored to be the director of IPCHA, an educational innovation hub in the Piskat Zev neighborhood of Jerusalem. And there she led and shaped the vision and strategic direction of the organization, managed the pedagogical consulting and support system for schools, and guided organizational goals. From 2023 until she became TALI's Director General, she was Director of Research and Development and Partnerships for TALI, the Center for Pluralistic Jewish Israeli Education, had overall responsibility for development, research, and evaluation processes within the organization. Truly, you are so accomplished, Rivka, and it's great to be sitting with you. I also want to add that Rivka was selected after an exhaustive search of many, many talented candidates, and we're delighted and honored that you are now at the helm. So it's a joy to be with you, and I want to begin, first of all, with a personal question. I want to ask you, Rivka, if you could just simply tell us about yourself, your story, your personal journey, and how you ended up on this path toward committing your life to pluralistic Jewish education in Israel.
Well, first of all, thank you, Matt, for having me tonight. It's a pleasure being with you and to everybody on the Zoom. So basically, from when I was born into a Jewish environment. My name is Rivka, as you said. You introduced me to everybody. My second name is Batsheva. And my mother, being a very, very smart and sensitive woman, she decided to name me after two biblical figures, male figures, Isaac and David. And I got the name of Rivka by honoring my grandfather, Yitzchak, and David, my uncle. So really from the day I was born and given my names, I was very connected to my Jewish identity. And that was the beginning of my story. Yes, I grew up in a Jewish environment, of an Orthodox home, till I was 5 in Ottawa. And my family, they had the kosher meat store in Ottawa. So day-to-day life was very connected. My grandfather and my father had major roles within the synagogue. My grandfather was the president of the synagogue in Netanya after we made Aliyah, and my father was the cantor. He used to blow the shofar on the high holidays. So really gradually growing up in that kind of Jewish environment and in that settings. So it was deeply a part of my life, everyday life. I attended a religious school in Netanya and in high school also. In my studies, as you said before, I went to Bar Ilan and I studied the land of Israel studies, which also connected me even more to Israel and the meaning of what it is to be Israeli, history, geography, archaeology. All of that was a big part of my degree. And when I started teaching, it was a big surprise for me because when I came into the educational life, my educational life and experience, it came to me as a surprise because when I was studying in my first degree, I said, I'm never going to become a teacher. And life
It happens to the best of us, Rivka. There you
exactly.
go.
Yeah, that was life's
Yeah,
joke on me
right.
because when my third son was born, I found myself coming into school as a substitute teacher, and I immediately fell in love. And that was a big surprise for me.
That's so
And
impressive that you fell in love with teaching as a substitute teacher,
right,
because I would imagine that the kids would give you a hard time as a substitute teacher. But
yeah. So I started out as a substitute teacher, and then I continued to be a full-time homeroom teacher, and I absolutely loved it because it had a deep meaning for me, being a little part of bringing some kind of change and improvement into those children's lives. And that was very meaningful for me.
and at the
So,
time, Rivka, you were teaching in a Mamlachti Dati public religious school
right.
in Israel?
It's a Mamlachti Meshalev. So it's also kids coming from religious backgrounds and kids coming from secular backgrounds living together in the same educational environment. And that's also what built me as an educator today, that kind of way of being in dialogue and living together. And I still live there in Kfar Adumim. That's the kind of community that I live in today as well.
Right.
So,
In many ways, the reality that you're describing is a Gan Eden. It's a Garden of Eden of sorts. That Kfar Adumim is truly a mixed community
true.
like that, and they can sustain a school that has both religious and secular kids in it. In so many ways, I feel that that's the vision that we're aiming for, certainly in TALI, and everything that you've done professionally, it seems, has been a seamless connect from that humble beginning that you had as a substitute teacher in
Right.
this school.
Afterwards, I came into IPCHA. You mentioned the Innovational Education Center. That's where I deeply understood what it means to educate to the 21st century, skills-based learning needed, or competencies and values that really are deeply needed now in our system. And I learned a lot in those years. And in 2022, I took part on a trip to New York, an educational trip to New York. I was invited because I studied here my MA, and I already got to know within the TALI system and Schechter system. So I got to know some people, and they
So,
invited
Rivka, I
me.
apologize for interrupting. If I could just take you 2 steps back,
Sure.
since you mentioned your MA. I just want to hear about how it is that you got to Schechter in the first place.
That's a good question. Well, I was looking for a place where I could study my second degree, my master's, and I found a very small, intimate, close, and warm kind of environment when I came here. And it was like falling in love, like I fell in love with being a teacher. It's just that warm sense of being a part of something. And I enrolled. So that's how I came here. I was looking for an opportunity to study, and that's what brought me here, that warm kind of environment, or that boutique kind of
And I
environment.
trust Schechter met your
Oh,
expectations, your studies in
definitely.
the graduate school.
Yes, they did. Schechter opened my mind to new ideas because I lived as an Orthodox Jew within my family, and that was my education, that was my bringing up. And when I came here, I had the opportunity to think in different ways that were never. I had some kinds of assumptions of what Jewish life is supposed to be, certain texts, certain prayers, and here my mind was expanded. I was able to think about how Jewish life is supposed to be lived in different kinds of ways, and that was a spark to me. And I really fell in love with that also. So I felt a deep connection.
Are there one or two instructors that really inspired you here? That really?
Oh, there were many. There were many. I wouldn't want to say specifically just one, but I really
You can show
enjoyed.
favoritism tonight. It's okay. It's okay.
I really enjoyed studying here as a whole. The funny thing is, when I finished my studies here in Schechter, and it was the joint program with TALI, I came to TALI and I asked them if they're looking for people, if they need new workers, and I was told that was like I think that was in 2017 or 2018 or something like that. And I was told, no, we're not looking for new workers now. So I put that aside. And in 2022...
But even then, you were interested.
Yes, I was. Because it was a way of branching out and being a part of something bigger. Because I taught in Kfar Adumim, and that was a very closed environment. It was one school that I knew, and I wanted to try out new places. And I think that's also why I left to IPRA in 2019. Right. And then in 2022, when we went on that trip to New York, so I learned so much. And I came in one person. That's what I said after we came back. I started out on the journey as one person, but I came back another. And that was very, very meaningful for me. And at the end of the journey, Peri, the former Director General of TALI, she invited me to come in for a conversation. And she offered me to join TALI team. And the rest is history. So
very beautiful.
That was my journey back here.
Wonderful. Rivka, I want to ask if you could share with us where the TALI program stands today and what your vision and hopes are for it 5 years from now. But actually, before you describe the vision, I know many people in our audience are not wholly familiar with the vision of TALI. Mm-hmm. So if you could just say, a few basic words about what we're doing in TALI, what TALI has been about, and where it is that you want to take it.
Well, most people know that TALI has been around for many years, 50 years almost, and basically working in the secular system, bringing in pluralistic ideas of how you can teach about Judaism and Jewish life and different Jewish values, human values. They're the same. And what TALI is trying to do in the secular educational system in Israel is to give teachers and students that sense of belonging and understanding what it means to be a Jew in Israel. That going with knowledge, text, ideas, pluralistic communication with other people, to be in dialogue with people who are different than me, to be okay with having different kinds of ways to live a Jewish life, and for it to be meaningful within the secular system, the secular educational system. So we have many programs. We have programs going on from kindergarten, elementary school, high school. We also have educational manhigut programs.
Educational leadership.
Educational leader programs, thank you. And we also have the connected partnership with the Schechter for the master's degree. So we have many programs going on. And we have a lot of development programs. We're developing different kinds of pedagogical tools and resources for our teams, for schools. So it's very wide, and we've been doing it for so many years. And I think there's a reason why we're still around. There's something good that's happening there.
Oh, there's something great that's happening in TALI schools. And, you know, as I think about TALI and also about last week's Parshat HaShavua and the coming week's Parshat HaShavua for those in the diaspora, Parshat Shlach Lecha, the infamous episode of the spies.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we have these spies sent out to scout out the land of Israel. And many of them come back as naysayers. They're so intimidated by what it is that they see. And then we have this beautiful verse, Vayalu v'negev, vayavo ad Chevron, that they went up into the Negev, and vayavo ad Chevron, that he came until Chevron. Right? There's this very, very interesting textual difficulty in this particular verse, where it begins in the plural and it ends in the singular.
Mm-hmm.
And jumping off that, in Masechet Sotah, in the Talmud, Daf Lamed Daled Amud Bet, there's this beautiful query about why it is that it says Vayavo ad Chevron, that he came to Chevron. Vayavo mibayele? Shouldn't it have said that they came in the plural and not in the singular?
Mm-hmm.
And Rava teaches the following: Milamed shepirash Kalev me'etzat meraglim, that Kalev separated from the evil designs of the other spies, vehalach v'nishtatach al kivrei avot, and he went and he placed himself by the graves of our ancestors, as it were, in Hebron. And he said to them, Avotai, my forefathers, my ancestors, Bikshu alai rachamim she'enatzel me'etzat meraglim, that they, our ancestors, should pray for mercy that he should be saved from the evil designs of the other spies. All of that to say, my punchline here, Rivka, is that there was ruach acheret. There was this other spirit that really drove Kalev and made him the leader that he is. And when I think of TALI, I think of that other spirit. I think it's so beautiful that we go into these TALI schools. I believe we have about 45 schools in the system throughout the country. And how it is that we increase Jewish content in those secular Israeli schools and also teach a vision of pluralism and pluralistic Jewish education. How it is that we want this embracing vision of all of Israeli society and for these kids to connect and understand that Judaism belongs to them too, that It's not simply the domain of one religious stream in the country, but that it belongs to all of us.
So true.
So where do you want to take us, Rivka?
So where do I want to take us? So right now we're working in a few parallel levels. We're working within schools with certain kinds of programs. We're also working within the municipalities, and this is new to us, but we're just starting that. And we're working in the leadership programs. So where I want to take us is to expand the ecosystem of pluralistic schools in Israel. Not only to be a TALI school, but to engage with those ideas of really being able to feel a sense of belonging to the Jewish state, to being a Jew, what it means to be with that grounded identity, and not to be intimidated to speak about it, and not to be intimidated to educate towards that. Because what we see today is a very fragmented system. There are Orthodox schools, there are secular schools, and there's no dialogue.
Right, very siloed.
Right.
Siloed, compartmentalized.
Right.
And There's no bridge bringing them together.
Right. And I think that TALI has a mission to expand that bridge so we can educate everybody. Every child growing up in Israel needs to understand their Jewish background, needs to understand what it means to belong to the Jewish people. And that has a lot of meaning. And I think that our mission is very, very important also for Israeli society because of the polarization and everything that's going on politically and the wars and whatever. And these are things that can be taught, and these are things that can be practiced. And it's a big mission. So I'd like to expand that.
Rivka, you mentioned the educational ecosystem in Israel. How does TALI fit into that educational ecosystem when you think about mamlachti, mamlachti dati, other educational organizations that are providing content today? How does TALI fit into all of that?
So right now, as I said before, we work with the secular system, but our values speak to everybody. They cater to all of the systems. And we're trying to partner with other organizations because we have a shared value in getting out that message of what it means to teach Judaism in a democratic state and taking into consideration that there are many different ways and diversity is richness and it's not a problem. So we need to embrace that.
I want to turn to our audience for a moment. Certainly, if you have questions, you're invited to put them in the chat. Don't be shy. As this conversation unfolds, I'm sure that there are pieces that you would like clarifications on, and we are more than happy to address those questions as we go further. In what ways have the wars impacted our schools in particular and the educational system as a whole? And how has our TALI team responded to address these needs in particular?
Well, ever since the 8th of October, 2023, basically a day after this started, TALI has responded in distributing different kinds of programs because we know that families today and also students and teachers, schools, are dealing with a complex reality. And if we're talking about teachers that have to be in the army or children that their fathers aren't at home or increasing in violence, violent language, even physical violence, displacement, or not enough teachers on the field. So this has been very difficult on the educational system in Israel as a whole. And TALI wanted to help out as much as we could. So we've been ever since distributing different pedagogical content. We're also working towards municipalities in the north and in the south to give them also different kinds of programs so we can help out. That's basically what we've been doing.
It's magnificent, and it's so important that we've been able to respond in real time on the ground and be attentive to this situation. What do you feel are some of the main challenges that we face when we're dealing with the Ministry of Education in Israel?
Well, as I said before, the fragments being so divided up. As I said, the Orthodox system, the secular system, the Arab system, they're all different systems and they're not combined together. That's a big problem because we should be educating to one sense of belonging. We're all a part of one nation. And that oneness is really, really needed now because we've seen principals, teachers, children dealing with the ongoing polarization of values and ideas. And this is something that that needs to be cured. And I think that working within the educational system, that would be a part of healing that. Another problem that we have that we're dealing with now is the Geffen platform, which is the grapevine platform, which basically gives principals a way of ordering different kinds of programs, educational programs, as if it were a supermarket. So if once we were an organization and we were very, very close within our schools, so now we're a product on a shelf. And we need to find new pathways to being a lot closer to what's happening within schools. So we're coming up with ideas and tailor making different programs in order for us to find those new pathways around that product, that shelf product.
Right. We have to figure out how to make that product stand out amongst many other products.
Right.
You know, and I feel in so many ways, Rivka, that TALI is such an easy sell. One of the most inspiring experiences I have had working here at Schechter was when we organized a mission to Israel for a wonderful group of our donors from North America, and we took them to the TALI school in Ma'ale Adumim. Mm-hmm. And from the moment we arrived at that school, it was extraordinary. The Kabbalat Panim, the reception that we had when we first walked in, the kids were dressed in white, singing Naomi Shemer songs. They had this beautiful table set for Shabbat. We looked around, and what struck us is the diversity of kids that you see. Ethiopian Israeli, Russian Israeli, Dati, Chiloni, religious, secular, and even amongst the teachers that were there. I think that's what struck us so deeply. And then to hear the kids talking about core values that teachers in the school learned in the Meorot program, core values that represent pluralism. It all ties into what you were saying before, how important it is to teach unity, right? To teach that, we're part of one people. And especially in the polarized world that we're living in today, it's so critical that we're able to do that. I know that one of the flagship programs of TALI now is Halali. It's a remarkable educational leadership program that culminates in bringing a select group of Jewish educators to a community in North America. What are some of the key outcomes that you've observed from this initiative?
Well, Halali is a place where the sparks begin. I was speaking before what happened to me when I attended that trip to New York and studying here. So Halali is a place where educators and leaders have a place that they can speak to each other and study together. And it's a place where they can reflect on different challenges that they're dealing with in their day-to-day professional life. And the thing is, when they have that opportunity within the Halali program, and they open up text, and they study together, and they're open to different kinds of ideas, and they do it lishma. They do it in order to study. They want to be there. That's the kind of place that they're looking for. It is a real place where the sparks begin. And what we're looking for in Halali is for the participants to come back with that spark that they can light within others. And that's what's happening. We've had many people coming back from those programs and saying that they went through transformation, and it goes so deep. There was one woman that said, very amazing woman, she said that the Halili program changed her professional life, but more deeply than that, her personal life. And today, she is establishing a new educational center in her municipality, and we have deep connection with her till today. So this is one of the municipalities that we're going to be working with next year. And that was...
Which municipality?
It's Haifa.
Haifa.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what happened. We had that feeling, that deep connection. And this is what happens. That was the impact. And now we're going to be working within the municipality with her team, with the principals in the schools, and with other organizations working in the high schools and also within the schools themselves. So that was a really big impact that we had coming through the Halili program.
It must be such a wonderful sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
To see that happening,
Yes.
Sort of the ripple effects of all of this. And that's exactly what you hope for
Right.
in your work.
We had somebody else saying in a different group, he said that he finally understood. He comes from a secular home. He didn't grow up not in a TALI school or any other kind of environment where he had the opportunity to study and to get to know himself and his identity. And he said, after we came back from his program, he said that he was introduced to the beautiful sides of Judaism. So that was also very deep.
It's wonderful to hear
Yeah.
that. I know that one of the most cutting-edge projects that TALI has undertaken over the past couple of years has been the TALI Dorot timeline.
Yes.
Just this month, it was released in English and Spanish. Right? Our original version in Hebrew, I know, was a major hit for educators, administrators. Can you speak a bit about the origins of the project and directions in which we hope to take this endeavor?
Yes. So the Dorot timeline is it's an amazing platform. You get to see history, culture, 4,000 years of history played out in a very visual platform. Maybe later on you can see a picture of it, but the thing is, there was never a digital platform for a timeline made. What was available was just, paper. And
which is shocking when you think of the breadth of the Jewish world and the richness and all of the resources that we have out there.
Right. So there are a few resources, but they're in museums. And this is a tool that teachers can use, anybody can use, to research backgrounds, communities around the world, different stages in Jewish life. It's an amazing tool. We're trying to embed it in classrooms within Google and Microsoft that work with the Ministry of Education, and we're waiting to get that Teudat Hechsher, that we can join those digital platforms, and then the tool will be available for every child in the state of Israel studying history.
It's wonderful.
And culture.
I remember when I first started clicking around how amazed I was by all of the information that's been curated on this incredible timeline of Jewish history and how it goes into not only history, but culture and religious observance. And it's just a very, very multivalent experience. And I'll also share with you, Rivka, that this past year when I went for Asifat Torim, for parent-teacher night at my baby daughter's school. She's now 18 and about to graduate from Hartman Girls School. I was telling every single one of her teachers about the TALI timeline. And I was literally showing it to them on their computer. They were blown away, and they said, this is exactly the kind of tool that we need, that we're thirsting for. So
it's also so beautiful, and it's so visual. It makes a very, very abstract idea very, very visual. So kids can understand what it means when they're studying those 4,000 years of history and Jewish culture.
Right. No, it's just brilliant. And I think it's so beautiful that we've translated the timeline into English and Spanish. It's truly going to be an international tool across the diaspora as well.
Hopefully.
I'm sure of it. Rivka, can you speak about any other innovative programs or partnerships TALI is developing? I know you spoke about the municipal model. One of the other programs that really intrigues me is Friends Across the Sea.
Mm-hmm. So we're partnering with other organizations, some museums. We want to look into culture, art, creativity, and we're trying to find the way to new partnerships. So that's one of the initiatives, Peoplehood. So we're partnering with the Sochnut in different kinds of programs because educating Israeli kids to pluralistic ideas is one thing, but connecting them to kids in the diaspora is another thing. Because if the idea of being a part of the Jewish world and holding diverse ideas, diversity, and pluralistic ideas, and being able to feel confident in who you are and saying that I know myself and I have a lot of respect for somebody else and how they live their life. So the connection is very, very important. And one of the programs that we have is Chaverim Me'ever Layam, but not only within the students, also the leadership programs. The trips that we take overseas, that's also a part of it. The understanding that we're all a part of one big story. And we need to really hold that and to understand that when we educate to pluralism or to Jewish identity, we have to take into consideration that we're not here alone. It's not only here in Israel, it's also in the diaspora. So that connection is very, very important for us.
I believe Josh just handed me a question from our audience out there.
Okay.
A very powerful question. What gives you hope that we can positively impact Israeli society over time to move it toward tolerance, moderation, and pluralism?
What gives me hope? It's a good question. I think when I look in the eyes of the people that come into our programs, that's what gives me hope. Anybody in education has to hold hope. Because without that, I don't think there's very much for us to do. So as an educator, and I believe that education has a very big role in healing the Israeli society. So we have to hold on to that very, very strongly. And we see a difference. When people come into the programs, we see that spark. We see the difference. We see it becoming meaningful. And we hold on to that. And holding on to that idea of it will be okay, but it's our job to make it okay. It's not only somebody else's job. It's within our power. So we take on the power.
I love that you said that about what it is to be an educator, to really hold on to hope. I would add hope and optimism, that we are educating toward a brighter future.
Right.
And educating toward the sense of Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'zeh, that we're responsible for one another, that we are part of this historical journey together. And I think, not just to be an educator, but also to be an Israeli, that you have to be an optimist, that you have to latch on to hatikva, to that sense of hope.
Exactly.
I think in so many ways that speaks to our resilience as a people, how it is that we're able to navigate forward.
That's true.
With all of the challenges that we face. From your perspective, what do you feel is the greatest need currently facing TALI?
So right now, because of the problems that we have within the educational system. And we're trying to tailor to different kinds of schools and different kinds of programs. So we would need to have a more sustainable infrastructure for funding and financial resources. That's something that we deeply need. So we can hold on to hope and we can go forward with our programs. That's basically what we need. And also to get the word out there. That's also very, very important.
You know, I'll share with you, Rivka, that one of the most heartbreaking conversations that I had this past year was with a director of Israel allocations for one of the major federations in North America. And I had asked candidly if investing and supporting a pluralistic vision of Jewish education was one of their priorities in allocations. And she said to me, honestly, Matt, this is not on the agenda right now. That the feeling is that there are so many existential issues that the state of Israel is dealing with in the midst of war, that there's a sense that we need to be giving to, you know, these other areas that deal very directly with trauma, or Friends of the IDF, or Magen David Adom, all very important causes. But, you know, what I said to myself, and also what I said to this director of Israel allocations, is that we need to not only tend to, you know, the very real physical needs or material needs of the people of Israel, but also to the neshama of the people of Israel as well. And that's where I see, you know, the importance of supporting the educational infrastructure like TALI coming into this.
Also that, and also the connection between us and the diaspora. Because the more we are connected, so those needs will be chosen. It'll be known that education can help. But that comes with connection. That comes with conversations. That comes with being a part of a program that we can talk about these things. Because, okay, so what gets the headlines?
Always. And it should be TALI that's getting the headlines too. Josh, I want to turn to you and see if there are any questions in the chat that people are raising that they'd like addressed. Okay. It's so interesting to me. I'm thinking of your personal journey too, Rivka, coming from Ottawa, Canada, to, you know, the craziness of Israel, you know, a good craziness, just, you know, a very tosses, very animated place. I'm just curious, do you wax sentimental for your Canadian roots at certain times?
I think so. Achinam Nini has a song that she sings, Lea Goldberg. It's called Ilanot. And the song speaks about being rooted in two different scenes. It's, and I think that has meaning also for me because I have my past, I have my family's history, coming even from Europe, from Eastern Europe. So rooted in that, having that history, making a life in North America, and then coming to Israel. So that's like a kind of journey. And I hope that the journey stays here because we have a lot to do. But I think that gives me a sense of purpose because I know where my roots are. And I know where I came from. And I know why I'm here. So, yeah, I do have that feeling. And also I have family in Canada. So my sister lives there, my uncles. So, yeah.
Which is incredibly beautiful to be living in both of those worlds. You know, I feel that that's, you know, that's the essence, that's the treasure of the Jewish world that we're living in today. That we can be deeply rooted here in the land of Israel, but we don't have to reject where it is that we came from.
It's true.
And, I think of the richness that we bring in this notion of kibbutz galiot, this ingathering of the exiles, people coming from all over, and the richness that adds to the mosaic of being in Israel. As we near the finish line, Rivka, I want to ask, what is the message you would like to send to the broader community about the importance of supporting pluralistic Jewish education in Israel? Why should that be a priority for diaspora Jews?
Well, as I said before, I think it's a part of knowing that the connection is a part of being one. And when we educate to pluralism, and if we have a connection to the Jews in diaspora and to those kids, so I can see a future for those kids growing up, living in diversity and knowing that that's a good thing, not a bad thing, and knowing that we're all a part of one story and we belong to that story together. Whether we live here, whether we live there, it doesn't really matter. We're a part of one Jewish nation. So I think that's really important. It's not only about supporting, it's about belonging. So
it's very poetically said. And, I feel strongly that we need to be able to nurture each other
Right.
in this relationship.
Right.
I want to believe that Israel will become a place in which not just American Jews, but all Jews from around the world will feel completely at home in this, very special homeland with a capital H. And that we're able to build a homeland of hope and optimism that embraces the diversity of who we are.
Exactly. Well said.
Rivka, is there a special text that inspires you, a teaching that you hold close to your heart each day?
Well, yes, I had it
I'm
on my
asking you to give a
board.
gift to all of us.
Well, keeping hope in mind. So I have a line from a Leonard Cohen song, the anthem. The line is, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." So I'm sure you know the song. That's something that I keep in mind all the time. Because even when things are difficult and even when we think that it's not going to work and there's a lot of work to get done, there's always a little silver lining and there's always a light coming in and that little spark that can open up new worlds. So I keep that in mind all the time.
You're reminding me of the teaching of the Kutzker Rebbe, who says that, there's nothing more whole than a broken heart.
That's true.
Right? And that when we're dealing with a situation in which we're shattered in many ways, it not only opens our heart, but it also lets the light in very, very profound ways.
That's true.
So, Rivka, I want to thank you for this hour together. We are so blessed to have you at the helm of TALI now. May we go Michael El Chayil. We had a magnificent run with Dr. Perry Sinclair, and I'm sure that's going to continue, and you're going to bring us to even greater heights in everything that TALI is doing.
Thank you.
So we wish you all the best, and I assure you that you've got a team of generous supporters out there that want to give you the inspiration and the resources that you need to make the dream happen.
Thank you, Matt.
We wish you all the best as you go forward.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I want to say Shavua Tov again to all of you. I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to remind you that Professor Ari Ackerman is going to join me on the next installment of Spotlight on Schechter when we meet again together on July 19th. July 19th. So please put that on your calendar, Sunday, July 19th. We will gather here again, and you will hear about Ari Ackerman's inspiring vision and dream for Machon Schechter, for the graduate school, where it is that he wants to take us, and we'll do some dreaming together. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to bringing the ship to even higher waters, and wishing you all the best in the coming week.